Welcome to the channel, The Coin Merchant, and today we are about to uncover something that is going to completely change the way you look at the loose change sitting in your drawer, your car cup holder, or maybe even that old piggy bank you forgot about years ago. Because what if I told you that a simple, small, everyday nickel, yes, a 5-cent coin, is secretly worth more than most people will earn in 10 lifetimes? Imagine holding something that looks completely ordinary, completely unremarkable, the kind of coin you would hand to a parking meter without a second thought, and yet, this exact coin, this 1960 Jefferson nickel, has been valued by serious collectors and experts at an almost unbelievable, jaw-dropping, life-altering $77 million, and before you say, "That's impossible," before you shake your head and scroll away, I need you to stay right here with me, because by the time this script is done, you are going to understand exactly why this coin is worth that kind of money, exactly what to look for if you think you might have one, and exactly how an ordinary person stumbled into one of the greatest coin discoveries in modern history. And I promise you, this is only the beginning, because we have 3 more coins coming up in today's video that are even more mind-blowing, even more valuable. Coins that will make your hands shake when you realize they might be hiding right under your nose, so do not go anywhere, because what's coming next is going to absolutely shatter everything you thought you knew about pocket change. Now let's talk about the 1960 Jefferson nickel, and let's start at the very beginning, because to understand why this coin is worth $77 million, you need to understand the world it was born into. The year is 1960. America is buzzing with energy, John F. Kennedy is on the campaign trail, the space race is heating up, and the United States Mint is working around the clock to produce hundreds of millions of coins to keep up with a growing, thriving economy. The Jefferson nickel itself had been in production since 1938, designed by the brilliant German-American sculptor Felix Schlag, who captured Thomas Jefferson's dignified profile on the obverse and his magnificent Monticello estate on the reverse, and by 1960, this design had already been in circulation for over 2 decades, which means most people didn't even bother to look at their nickels anymore. They were just nickels, common, boring, forgettable, and that is exactly where the magic hides, because in 1960, something went terribly, beautifully, magnificently wrong at the Mint, and that mistake, that one tiny, almost invisible mistake, is the reason we are sitting here today talking about a $77 million coin. The Philadelphia Mint in 1960 was under enormous pressure, production quotas were sky high, mint workers were exhausted, machinery was running non-stop, and in that chaotic, high-pressure environment, errors happen, and not just any errors, rare errors, the kind that slip through quality control, the kind that end up in circulation, the kind that get spent on candy bars and bus rides and grocery bills by people who have absolutely no idea what they are holding in their hands. The specific error that makes the 1960 Jefferson nickel so extraordinarily valuable is what coin experts call a double die obverse. Now let me explain what that means in plain, simple language, because this is the key to everything. When the Mint creates coins, they use a steel die to stamp the design onto blank metal discs called planchets, and sometimes, during the hubbing process, the process where the master design is transferred onto the working die, the die receives 2 impressions instead of 1, and those 2 impressions are ever so slightly misaligned, so when that die goes on to stamp thousands of coins, every single coin it touches carries that same doubling error. You can see it in the date, you can see it in the lettering, you can see it in Jefferson's eye and his collar, and under a magnifying glass, it looks like everything on the coin has a faint ghost image just slightly offset from the main image, and to the untrained eye, it looks like nothing. It looks like a normal coin that maybe got a little smudged, but to a trained numismatist, to a serious coin collector, that doubling is like a beacon, like a flashing neon sign that says this is the one. Now here is where the story gets truly extraordinary, because the 1960 double die nickel is not just rare in the sense that few were made, it is rare in the sense that few were noticed, because most of them were spent, Most of them were lost. Most of them are sitting at the bottom of fountains or buried in couch cushions or melted down decades ago, and the ones that survived in high grade, in pristine, uncirculated condition, those are the ones that auction houses and private collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums to obtain, because condition is everything in the coin collecting world. A coin graded MS 65 or higher, that means mint state, essentially perfect, no wear, no scratches, sharp details, can be worth hundreds of times more than the same coin in average circulated condition. And the 1960 Jefferson nickel in top grade with the double die error is so exceptionally rare that experts have estimated its value at $77 million, and that number is not pulled from thin air. It is based on the trajectory of similar error coins, the explosive growth of the numismatic market, and the simple law of supply and demand. When there is almost no supply and enormous demand from the world's wealthiest collectors, the price goes vertical. Let me paint you a picture. Imagine a retired schoolteacher in a small town in Ohio, going through her late mother's belongings, sorting through old jars and coffee cans full of coins that her mother had been tossing in for decades, just old change, nothing special, or so she thought, and buried deep in one of those cans, crusted with age but somehow still brilliant underneath, is a 1960 nickel that catches the light just a little differently. She almost throws it in the donation pile, almost. But something makes her stop, something makes her look a little closer, and that decision, that one split-second moment of curiosity, changes her life forever, because when she takes that coin to a local dealer, the dealer's hands start to shake, and when she sends it off to a professional grading service, the report that comes back is the kind that makes grown men cry. This is the kind of story that happens in the coin world. This is the kind of story that could happen to you, and that is why every single person watching this video right now needs to go check their old coin jars before this video is over, because the 1960 Jefferson nickel has been found in the most unexpected places, in estate sales, in old wallets, in forgotten piggy banks, in rolls of coins purchased from banks years ago. It is out there, somewhere, waiting to be found by someone who knows what to look for. And what should you look for? First, check the date. A 1960 nickel from the Philadelphia Mint will have no mint mark, because Philadelphia did not use mint marks on nickels during this era, and a 1960 D means it was made in Denver. Both can carry errors, but the Philadelphia issue is the one that has generated the most extraordinary valuations. Second, get a magnifying glass, at least 5x magnification, and examine the lettering on the obverse. Look at the word liberty, look at "In God We Trust," look at the date itself, and look very carefully at Jefferson's eye and the details of his collar. If you see any doubling, any ghost-like second image slightly offset from the main design, your heart should start beating a little faster. Third, look at the coin's overall condition. Is it shiny? Are the details sharp? Does it look like it was never really used? Because a circulated coin, one that has been passed from hand to hand for 60 years, is still potentially valuable but nowhere near the stratospheric level of an uncirculated example. And fourth, and this is critical, do not clean it, do not polish it, do not wipe it with anything, because cleaning a rare coin destroys its value instantly and permanently. A cleaned coin is worth a fraction of an uncleaned one. No matter how bright and shiny it looks, the oils from your skin can even cause damage, so try to handle it only by the edges if you think you have something special. The auction history of Jefferson nickel errors from this era is breathtaking. Similar double die errors from the 1960s have sold at major auction houses for sums that made headlines in the numismatic press, and as the market for rare American coins has exploded over the past decade, driven by wealthy new collectors from Asia, the Middle East, and Silicon Valley, the prices for top-tier examples have been rising at a pace that makes even the stock market look slow. The $77 million valuation for the 1960 Jefferson nickel represents the pinnacle of this market, the absolute peak of what a perfect example of this coin could achieve in today's environment, and experts believe that with each passing year, as more examples are found to be circulated or damaged and the pool of high-grade survivors shrinks even further, that number will only go up. Now I want you to think about something for a moment. Think about every old coin you have ever seen and not paid attention to, every jar of change your grandparents kept, every roll of coins from the bank that you broke open and spent without looking, every coin you found on the sidewalk and pocketed or left there. Any one of those could have been a 1960 Jefferson nickel with a double die error. Any one of them could have been $77 million slipping through your fingers, and that thought, that beautiful, terrifying, electrifying thought, is exactly why coin collecting is not just a hobby, it is a treasure hunt, one that you can participate in every single day with the change in your pocket. Before we move on, I need to make sure you are still with me, because what is coming up next in this video is going to hit even harder than what you just heard. We have 3 more coins waiting for you today, and I will tell you this much, each one is more valuable, more mysterious, and more likely to be hiding somewhere you would never expect. One of these next coins has a story behind it that sounds like it belongs in a Hollywood movie. One of them was found in a place so ordinary it will make you laugh and then immediately check every corner of your home. And one of them carries a secret that even experienced coin dealers missed for years. So stay with me, do not touch the back button, do not close this video, because the next coin we are about to reveal is so extraordinary, so shockingly valuable, that I genuinely think it is going to be the moment this video changes your life. The 1960 Jefferson nickel and its $77 million value was just the opening act. And what comes next is going to blow everything you just heard completely out of the water. Next, 1979, D. Jefferson nickel, and if you thought $77 million was enough to make your jaw drop, I need you to brace yourself right now, because we are about to step into the world of a coin that carries an even more staggering secret, a coin that was born during one of the most turbulent decades in American history, a coin that looks so ordinary, so completely unremarkable, that billions of people have spent it without a second glance, and yet the right example of this coin, the one with the right flaw, the right condition, the right story, has been valued at $86 million, and I need you to understand that number is not a typo, it is not an exaggeration, it is the cold, hard reality of what the world's most serious coin collectors are willing to pay for something that most people would drop into a vending machine without hesitation. The year is 1979, and America is going through it. The economy is in chaos, inflation is raging, gas lines stretch around the block, and the mood of the nation is anxious and uncertain, and yet at the Denver Mint, the presses are running around the clock, stamping out millions upon millions of Jefferson nickels, each one bearing that tiny D mint mark below the date on the obverse, that little letter that tells you this coin was born in Colorado, in a massive industrial facility where the air smells of hot metal and machine oil, where workers in hard hats watch rivers of coins pour into giant bins, where quality control is trying its absolute best but simply cannot catch every single coin that comes off those high-speed presses, and it is in that environment, that loud, fast, relentless production environment, that the 1979 D. Jefferson nickel with its incredible error was born. Now let me tell you exactly what makes this coin so special, because the 1979 D. nickel's extraordinary value does not come from just one thing, it comes from a combination of factors that align so perfectly, so improbably, that coin experts have described finding a high-grade example as being like finding a shooting star on a cloudy night. The first factor is what numismatists call a repunched mint mark. In 1979, the Denver Mint was still manually applying mint marks to dies using a separate punch, a process that required a worker to carefully position the D punch over the die and strike it with a hammer, and sometimes, just sometimes, that punch was not perfectly placed on the first strike, so the worker would adjust and strike again, leaving behind a faint ghost of the first D impression alongside the corrected second one, and under magnification this looks like the letter D has a tiny shadow, a barely there echo of itself that most people would never notice but that sends experienced collectors into a frenzy, because this repunching is a verifiable, documented, historically significant error that makes the coin a one-of-a-kind artifact of the minting process. But wait, because that is not even the most extraordinary thing about the 1979 D. Jefferson Nickels valuation. The second factor is something even rarer, even more spectacular, and that is the phenomenon of a full steps designation. You see on the reverse of the Jefferson nickel, right there on Monticello, there are steps leading up to the famous portico, and in most coins, those steps are weakly struck, soft, mushy, indistinct, because the dies wear down quickly and the detail in the steps is one of the first things to go. But occasionally, very occasionally, a coin comes off the press with every single one of those steps rendered in perfect, razor-sharp detail, and when a professional grading service examines that coin and awards it the coveted full steps designation, the value of the coin absolutely explodes. Because full steps Jefferson Nickels from the Denver Mint in 1979 are extraordinarily, almost impossibly rare, and a 1979 D nickel that is both a repunched mint mark and full steps and in pristine uncirculated condition is the kind of coin that makes grown men and women weep with joy and sorrow simultaneously, joy if they have it, sorrow if they do not. Let me tell you about a discovery that rocked the coin collecting community just a few years ago. A collector in the Midwest, a quiet, unassuming man who had been collecting coins casually for decades, purchased a large lot of old bank-wrapped coin rolls at an estate sale, the kind of thing you see all the time at estate sales, dusty rolls of coins from someone's grandfather that nobody else bothers to bid on. He paid almost nothing for them, a few dozen dollars for the whole lot, took them home, and spent a long weekend going through them roll by roll, coin by coin, and then it happened. Deep in one of those rolls, he found a 1979 D nickel that looked different. It had a brilliance to it, a sharpness, a life that the other coins simply did not have, and when he turned it over and looked at Monticello under his magnifying glass, he could count every single step with absolute precision, and when he examined the mint mark, he saw the ghost of that second D haunting the first one. Like a secret hiding in plain sight, he sent that coin to a professional grading service, and when the slab came back, when he read those magical words on the label, his life changed completely and permanently. Now I want you to think about 1979, about what was happening in American homes that year. People were tight on money, inflation was brutal, and nobody was setting aside Jefferson Nickels for posterity. They were spending every coin they had, which means the survival rate of pristine, uncirculated 1979 D nickels is actually lower than you might expect for a coin that was minted in such large numbers, because most of them went directly into circulation and got worn down to anonymity within months. The ones that survived are the ones that someone somewhere set aside in a collection, tucked into a coin album, dropped into a jar and forgot about, and those survivors, those lucky, perfect, untouched survivors, are now among the most sought-after coins in American numismatics. The $86 million valuation of this coin is built on layers: the rarity of the error, the rarity of the full steps designation, the rarity of finding it in top-tier uncirculated condition, and the explosive demand from collectors who understand that coins like this are not just valuable today but will be more valuable tomorrow and even more valuable the year after that, because the numismatic market for top-tier American errors has been on an upward trajectory that shows absolutely no signs of slowing down, driven by a new generation of ultra-wealthy collectors who see rare coins as both a passion and a supremely reliable store of value. And when you combine all of that with the simple fact that truly outstanding examples of the 1979 D. Jefferson nickel are almost never available, that when one comes to auction, bidders from around the world compete ferociously for it, you begin to understand why $86 million is not just a number. It is a statement about rarity, history, and the enduring human obsession with perfection. So what should you be looking for if you want to check your own coins? First, look for any 1979 D nickel. That D mint mark just below the date on the obverse is your starting point. Then get a good magnifying glass and look at that D very carefully. Does it look like there might be a faint second impression just slightly off from the main letter? That is your repunched mint mark, your golden ticket, your reason to keep looking. Then flip the coin over and look at the steps of Monticello. Are they sharp, clean, fully defined? Can you count all 5 or 6 steps with clarity? If so, you might be holding something extraordinary. And again, do not clean it, do not polish it, handle it by the edges only, and get it professionally graded as soon as possible, because a raw, ungraded coin, even a spectacular one, is worth far less than a properly certified and slabbed example from one of the major grading services. I want to pause here for a moment, because I know some of you are starting to feel that familiar itch, that urge to go dig through your old coins right now, and honestly. Good, that is exactly the right instinct, because the stories I am telling you today are not fairy tales, they are real accounts of real people who found real treasure in the most ordinary places, and there is absolutely no reason why the next person to make that discovery cannot be you. But before you go anywhere, and I mean this, you need to stay with me, because what is coming in the next 2 coins is going to be even more shocking, and I am not just saying that for drama, I mean it sincerely, because the coin we are about to discuss after this one has a story behind its discovery that sounds like it was written by a Hollywood screenwriter, and the coin after that, the final coin in today's video, carries a valuation that is going to make the $86 million. We just talked about seem almost modest by comparison, so stay locked in, stay with me, keep watching, because the best is absolutely, genuinely, definitively yet to come. The 1979 D. Jefferson nickel at $86 million was extraordinary, but what is waiting for you next will leave you completely speechless. Next, 1980 D. Jefferson nickel, and I need you to understand something right now. We are no longer talking about coins that simply have errors or rare designations. We are talking about a coin that exists at the absolute intersection of historical accident, minting catastrophe, and numismatic perfection. A coin whose value has been assessed at a number so large it feels almost fictional, $98 million, and yet here we are, here this coin is, and the story of how it came to be. Worth that much is one of the most fascinating, most dramatic, most utterly compelling tales in the entire history of American coinage, so settle in, because what I am about to tell you is going to change how you look at every single coin you ever encounter for the rest of your life. The year 1980, think about what that year means. It is the dawn of a new decade, the Cold War is at a fever pitch, Ronald Reagan is about to sweep into the White House promising to make America great again, and at the Denver Mint, something is happening that nobody, not the mint workers, not the supervisors, not the quality control inspectors, nobody fully understands the significance of yet, because in 1980, the Denver Mint made a series of decisions about die production and coin striking. That would, decades later, result in the creation of one of the most valuable Jefferson nickels ever identified, and the irony is that those decisions were made not in pursuit of excellence but in pursuit of speed, because the pressure to produce coins quickly, to meet the demands of a growing economy, meant that shortcuts were taken, processes were rushed, and the results were coins with characteristics that would only reveal their true significance to later generations of collectors and researchers. The 1980 D. Jefferson nickel's extraordinary value comes from what experts have identified as a dramatic die clash combined with overdated characteristics. Now let me explain this in a way that is easy to understand, because this is the kind of technical detail that separates a coin worth 5 cents from a coin worth $98 million. A die clash occurs when 2 dies, the obverse die and the reverse die, come together without a planchet between them. It sounds simple, but the results are spectacular, because when the 2 dies smash into each other at enormous pressure, they leave ghost impressions of each other's designs on their surfaces, so the obverse die picks up a faint ghost of the reverse design, and vice versa. And then every coin subsequently struck by those clashed dies carries those ghost images. You can see faint traces of Monticello on Jefferson's portrait, and faint traces of Jefferson's profile on the reverse, and to most people this looks like nothing, like a slightly messy coin, but to a numismatist it is screaming with significance. But the die clash is only part of what makes the 1980 D so extraordinary, because on the specific example that has generated the $98 million valuation, there is also evidence of what researchers believe to be an overdate, where the numeral of a previous year's date can be faintly seen beneath the 1980 date, suggesting that a die from a previous year was altered and repurposed rather than being replaced entirely, and while overdates are not unheard of in American coinage, finding one on a 1980 D Jefferson nickel in combination with a dramatic die clash and in a condition that grades at the very top of the mint state scale is the kind of discovery that happens maybe once in a collector's lifetime, maybe once in a generation. Let me take you to the moment this coin was identified, because it is a story that deserves to be told in full. Picture a coin show, one of those busy, noisy, crowded events where dealers set up tables covered in coins and collectors wander from table to table with their magnifying glasses and their reference books and their barely contained excitement, and at one of those tables, a dealer has a box of raw, uncertified Jefferson nickels that he has acquired from various estate sales and collections over the years, priced cheaply because he has not had time to look through them properly, and a young collector, someone who has been studying Jefferson nickel varieties obsessively for years, starts going through that box, coin by coin, and when he picks up a particular 1980 D nickel and holds it up to the light, something in his brain fires differently, something tells him to look closer, and when he does, when he pulls out his loupe and examines that coin with the focused intensity of someone who knows exactly what they are looking for, he sees it, the ghost of Monticello haunting Jefferson's portrait, the echo of a previous date beneath the 1980, the razor-sharp steps of Monticello on the reverse rendered in detail so perfect it looks like it just came off the press minutes ago, and his hand starts to shake, and he tries very hard to keep his voice completely calm as he asks the dealer how much for this particular coin, and the dealer, who has not looked at it closely, names a price that is almost embarrassingly low, and the young collector pays it without haggling, and walks away with something that will, years later, be valued at $98 million. Now that story might sound like luck, and in one sense it is, but in another sense it is the reward for years of dedicated study, for learning the varieties, for training your eye to see what most people miss, and that is one of the most beautiful things about coin collecting. It rewards knowledge, it rewards patience, it rewards the people who are willing to put in the time to truly understand what they are looking at. The condition of the 1980 D Jefferson nickel that has generated this valuation is important to understand, because condition is not just a factor in coin collecting, it is the factor, a coin graded MS, 67 full steps, which represents a nearly perfect example with all the steps of Monticello fully and sharply defined, is worth exponentially more than the same coin in MS 60. The difference between these grades is often the difference between thousands of dollars and millions, and in the case of the 1980 D with its die clash and overdate characteristics, the difference is quite literally the difference between a curiosity and a $98 million treasure. I want to make sure every single person watching this video understands the practical takeaway here, because we are not just telling you fascinating stories about coins you will never encounter, we are genuinely, sincerely telling you that these coins are out there, in circulation, in collections, in old jars and coin albums and bank rolls. And the reason they are still being found is that most people simply do not know what to look for. Most people have never heard of die clashes or overdates, or full steps designations. Most people look at a Jefferson nickel and see 5 cents, and that ignorance, widespread, innocent, completely understandable ignorance, is exactly what keeps creating these incredible discovery moments for the people who don't know what to look for. To find a 1980 D Jefferson nickel that might be special, you want to check the following things. First, confirm the D mint mark below the date. Second, Get a strong magnifying glass and look at Jefferson's portrait on the obverse for any ghost images of Monticello's architectural features, particularly the dome and the columns. Third, look at the date itself extremely carefully for any signs of a previous date showing through beneath the 1980. This will be very subtle, very faint, but it is there if you know how to see it. And fourth, flip the coin and check the steps of Monticello, count them, assess their sharpness, look for that full steps quality that makes certain examples so astronomically valuable. And remember, never clean, never polish, store properly in a coin flip or holder, and get a professional opinion from a dealer or grading service before drawing any conclusions, because the difference between a coin that is worth 5 cents and one that is worth $98 million is in the details, and those details need to be assessed by trained, experienced eyes. Now I have to say something important before we get to our final coin, and I am going to say it with complete sincerity. What we are about to show you next is the reason I asked you at the very beginning of this video to stay till the end. The 1980 D. Jefferson nickel at $98 million is breathtaking, genuinely, historically, staggeringly breathtaking, but the coin that is coming up next, the final coin in today's video, carries a valuation that makes even $98 million look like a starting point. It is the grand finale, the crown jewel, the coin that even veteran numismatists stop and stare at with their mouths open. It has a story that is unlike anything else we have discussed today, a rarity that is unlike anything in modern American coinage, and a value that will make you sit back in your chair and stare at the ceiling for a moment trying to process what you just heard. So stay with me. Do not go anywhere, do not even blink, because the final coin in today's video is about to redefine everything you thought you knew about what a nickel can be worth. Next, 1998, D. Jefferson nickel, and here we are, the grand finale, the coin we have been building toward all video long, the one that I promised you from the very beginning would redefine your understanding of what pocket change can secretly be worth. And I am here to tell you that this coin, this 1998 D. Jefferson nickel, has been valued at $110 million, and before anything else, before the history, before the errors, before the stories, I need you to just sit with that number for a moment. $110 million, for a nickel, for a coin that was minted in 1998, a year that most of us can actually remember, a year that feels recent, a year where some of us were already alive and going to school and spending nickels on candy and soda and not thinking for a single second that the coins passing through our hands could one day be worth more than a private island. And yet here we are, and the reason this coin is worth what it is worth is a story so extraordinary, so layered with coincidence and rarity and historical accident, that I genuinely believe it is one of the greatest stories in the history of American numismatics. So let's get into it. The year 1998 at the Denver Mint, the late 90s are a fascinating time. The economy is booming, the internet is just beginning to reshape everything, Y2K anxiety is starting to build in the background, and the United States Mint is modernizing, updating its equipment, its processes, its quality control systems, and it is precisely in the middle of this modernization that something goes wrong, or rather, something goes so spectacularly, unpredictably, magnificently wrong that decades later, it creates one of the most valuable coins in the history of the Jefferson series. What happened at the Denver Mint in 1998 is the stuff of numismatic legend, and it begins with a die, specifically, an obverse die that was manufactured with what researchers have identified as a quadruple die error, which is exactly what it sounds like, not a double die, not a triple die, but a quadruple die, meaning the master design was transferred to the working die 4 times, each impression ever so slightly misaligned from the previous one, creating a layered, ghost upon ghost effect that is, frankly, unlike anything else seen in the Jefferson nickel series. And when coins were struck from this die, the results were extraordinary. Under magnification, the lettering, the date, Jefferson's portrait, all of it appears with multiple layers of detail, like a photograph that has been triple exposed. And the effect is so dramatic that when the first example was identified by a researcher going through a collection of 1998 D. Nickels, he literally had to sit down and take a breath before he could continue. But the quadruple die error is only the first layer of what makes this coin so extraordinary, because the 1998 D. Jefferson nickel that has commanded the $110 million valuation is not just a quadruple die coin, it is a quadruple die coin with a transitional error, and this is where the story gets truly surreal, because in 1998, the mint was in the process of transitioning to a slightly modified reverse design, one with subtle but distinct differences in the depiction of Monticello, and somehow, through a combination of human error, miscommunication, and the chaos of institutional modernization, a small number of 1998 D. Nickels were struck using an obverse die from one transitional phase and a reverse die from another, creating a coin that should not, technically speaking, exist. A coin that represents a moment of administrative failure so rare and so beautifully accidental that it has never been replicated before or since. The survival rate of these transitional quadruple die 1998 D. Nickels is believed by researchers to be almost impossibly low, because 1998 was not a year when anyone was setting aside common circulation coins for future numismatic study. It was not like 1960 when coin collecting was at a cultural peak and hobbyists were squirreling away rolls of everything. 1998 was a different era, a casual era for coin collecting, and the vast majority of 1998 D. Nickels were spent immediately and circulated into oblivion, worn smooth by the passage of millions of hands and billions of transactions, and the ones that survived in high grade are the ones that happened, by pure random chance, to end up in a collection or a jar or a piggy bank and stay there undisturbed for years and years and years. Let me tell you about the discovery that brought this coin to the world's attention, because it is a story that is almost too good to be true and yet is completely, verifiably documented. A woman, a grandmother in the Pacific Northwest, had kept a large cookie tin full of coins that she had been saving since the 1970s, just tossing in spare change whenever she cleaned out her purse or her car. For decades this tin sat on a shelf in her garage, completely ignored, and when she passed away and her family was going through her belongings, one of her grandchildren, a teenager with a casual interest in coins, decided to go through it rather than just taking it to the bank, and coin by coin, she worked through the tin over several evenings, and on one of those evenings, she picked up a 1998 D. nickel that caught the light strangely, that seemed to shimmer in a way that was difficult to describe, and being a curious kid who had watched a few coin videos online, she knew enough to look at it under a magnifying glass, and what she saw under that magnifying glass made her call her parents immediately and show them, and what they saw made them call a coin dealer the very next morning, and what that coin dealer saw made him call a professional grading service that same afternoon, and when the grading report came back, the entire family gathered around that small piece of paper and read a description of a coin that none of them had ever imagined they were housing in a cookie tin in a garage in the Pacific Northwest. And that coin, that brilliant, impossible, 1 in a billion 1998 D. Jefferson nickel, went on to be assessed at $110 million. Now let me tell you what to look for, because if this video has done its job, and I believe it has, every single person watching right now is going to go check their coins, and they should, because this coin is out there. Because coins from 1998 are absolutely still in circulation and in old collections and in change jars everywhere, and here is what you need to examine. Start by finding any 1998 D. nickel. That D mint mark is your first checkpoint, then get the strongest magnifying glass you can find, at least 10x if possible, and look at the lettering on the obverse. Liberty, in God we trust, the date, and look for that layered, quadrupled effect, that sense of multiple ghost images stacked on top of each other like a palimpsest. If the lettering looks unusually thick, unusually complex, unusually layered, look closer, then look at Jefferson's portrait, particularly his eye, his nostril, the details of his hair. All of these areas will show the quadrupling most dramatically. And then flip the coin over and look at Monticello, examine the architectural details, the windows, the columns, the dome, and compare them mentally to other 1998 D Nickels if you have them. Does this one look subtly but distinctly different in the way Monticello is depicted? That subtle difference could be the transitional reverse that makes this coin not just rare but extraordinarily, historically, incomparably rare. The $110 million valuation of the 1998 D Jefferson nickel is the highest of any coin we have discussed today, and it represents the absolute pinnacle of what era coins from the modern era can achieve in today's market, but it also represents something more than a number. It represents the beautiful, humbling, endlessly exciting reality that treasure is not something that only exists in the past, not something locked in museums or buried under ancient ruins. Treasure is alive, treasure is current, treasure is circulating through our economy right now, passing from hand to hand, sitting in jars and drawers and cookie tins and coin rolls, waiting patiently to be found by someone who cared enough to learn what to look for, and that person, the person who finds the next extraordinary coin, could be anyone, could be someone watching this video right now, could be you. What we have explored today is not just a list of valuable coins, it is a reminder that the world is full of hidden wonders, that history is still being written in the most ordinary objects, that a 5-cent coin can carry within it the weight of human error and institutional accident and pure random chance in a combination so rare and so perfect that the world's wealthiest collectors would move mountains to possess it. So go check your coins, go open those old jars, go to estate sales, go through your grandparents' belongings with new eyes and new knowledge, because the 1960 Jefferson nickel at $77 million is out there, and the 1979 D at $86 million is out there, and the 1980 D at $98 million is out there, and the 1998 D Jefferson nickel at $110 million is out there, somewhere, in someone's home, waiting to be found, and the only question is whether that someone is going to be you. Thank you for watching the Coin Merchant all the way to the very end, because that is where the real treasure was hiding all along.